On June 17, 1935, Clessy drove the first ever diesel-powered passenger car out of New York City. Destination?
The 10-point plan includes ending the sale of new petrol and diesel vehicles by 2030 instead of 2040.
Is this the end of diesel engines? Electric cars are becoming increasingly popular, and diesel is getting a bad rep when it comes to their environmental impact. So, is this the end of diesel engines? Compression ignition may be ending the age of environmentalism. Find out by watching this video. Diesel engines have been around for over 120 years, and in that time, they have proven to be the most efficient form of an internal combustion engine for applications as varied as large cargo ships, trucks, trains, and even airplanes. Compared to spark-ignited gasoline engines, they are more thermally efficient and deliver lower fuel burn per horsepower. Like all internal combustion engines, however, increasingly stringent environmental regulations and the need to reduce CO2 emissions means their days are numbered in many applications. It's not a secret that diesel vehicles have been demonized, with fears about their emissions even leading cities like New York and Brussels to propose banning them altogether in coming years. So now, as sales numbers fall, could diesel go the way of the floppy disk or the cassette tape and disappear altogether? Why did diesel cars become so popular? In the year 2000, diesel engine cars made up around a seventh of the new car market. By 2011, they were more than half, an amazing jump over just 10 years. A major factor in this huge increase was the government's 2005 decision to change the way that car tax was calculated, with the bands reorganized to reflect a vehicle's CO2 emissions. The change was designed to incentivize car buyers to choose diesel cars to reduce the amount of harmful greenhouse gas being pumped out of the car's tailpipes. This tax change came at the same time as engineering advances saw average new car CO2 emissions fall by a third. The love affair with diesel came to a crashing end in late 2015, though, as the Volkswagen scandal that came to be known as Dieselgate brought new air quality concerns to the fore. It's hard to believe, as diesel vehicles are thrust into a global urban environment crisis when the Audi Super Bowl advert was made just 7 years ago. But let's not forget that air pollution now kills 3.3 million people prematurely every year, which is more than malaria and influenza combined. And emissions from diesel engines are one of the worst culprits. A report showed hundreds of thousands of kids around the world are being exposed to air toxicity levels from diesel automotives. Even so, this was more or less common belief as late as Super Bowl 44 in 2010, namely that diesel-powered cars could be driven with a clear mind and conscience. In the beginning, diesel was seen as a wonder fuel. It was a way to save money on gas and help save the planet at the same time. Government, business, and science worked together to sell us a dream. Cars that ran on diesel would help us cut our CO2 emissions and ease us into a new environmentally friendly age. Why did diesel cars lose popularity? At first, we all wondered if diesel cars were really as clean as we had assumed they would be after the Dieselgate scandal broke. After it was discovered that Volkswagen had designed TDI diesel engines to enable pollution controls only during lab tests, the Volkswagen Group received a note of violation of the Clean Air Act. The cars were able to comply with the regulations because of this, but they had up to 40 times more nitrogen oxides, NOx for short. On the other hand, headlines about the UK's appalling failure to fulfill air quality objectives brought NOx emissions to our attention. The planned implementation of clean air zones, such as London's ultra-low emissions zone, caused a sharp decline in the sales of diesel vehicles, making NOx the new CO2. Manufacturers sold 38% less diesel vehicles at year's end than they had at their height. Does diesel have a future? It does, but not an optimistic one. Only owners of the newest diesel models can drive worry-free about new air quality laws due to stricter emissions testing. Additionally, the number of diesel cars, trucks, and vans on UK roads is just under 14 million, so it'll take some time for them all to be phased out. As for the high mileage drivers, they'll also continue to have a preference for diesel vehicles. For sales representatives, many company cars will, for the foreseeable future, be diesel. Also, automakers around the world will keep producing diesel vehicles in order to satisfy the desire of those buyers. The government has stated that sales of gasoline and diesel vehicles would cease in 2030, thus the end is in sight. This may seem audacious to some observers of the auto business, but there won't be many diesel cars available for purchase in a few years. They will live on after that, but by 2050, they might be quite rare. This summer's spike in gasoline prices only served to highlight the promise of electric automobiles, which remain the main consumer bulwark for the country's emerging electric economy. Even if petroleum prices are on the decline, more people, businesses, and cities are turning to electric power as a form of mobility in the future. Now that the price of gasoline has gone up a lot since the summer of 2022, it just shows how much potential electric vehicles have. Electric vehicles are still the biggest consumer driver of the new electric economy in the US. Even though gas prices are going down again, more people, businesses, and cities are looking to electric power as a way to get around in the future. The rise of electric vehicles. Choosing the right kind of electric car can help you save money and lower your carbon footprint. Electric vehicle sales are surging worldwide due to technology improvements, investments from automakers, policy support, and rising fuel prices. Currently, there are now almost 20 million passenger EVs on the road, 1.3 million commercial EVs, including buses, delivery vans, and trucks, and over 280 million electric mopeds, scooters, motorcycles, and three-wheelers. As EVs take off, there are growing signs of strain on the supply chain for batteries and raw materials. In 2020, sales of electric vehicles, or EVs, exceeded 3.1 million, with Europe accounting for the majority of demand. The US, China, and Europe together account for more than 45% of all electric vehicle sales worldwide. 2020 saw 1.4 million more EVs sold in Europe than in China. And in 2020, EV sales will make up 4% of all new car sales globally, growing 40.9% year over year. Large-scale commercial EV production by major automakers likely won't start until 2025. Driving an electric car can feel much smoother than driving a non-electric vehicle because electric automobiles don't have a clutch, gearbox, or tailpipe. You can brake less frequently and accelerate more quickly thanks to regenerative braking. The technique that uses the energy from your pedals to recharge the battery is called regenerative braking. Because of the energy-saving design of this technology, reducing the gas pedal in an electric car actively reduces speed in the same way that lightly braking would. An electric car's motor slows down in response to applying the brakes, which is usually enough to stop the vehicle. They also have the conventional friction brakes, which will only engage when necessary and are available for quicker stops. It's normal to have to push the pedal a little harder than you would anticipate in these circumstances, and the extra effort is just necessary to engage the friction braking. Also, while these models tend to have less trunk capacity in the back, the front of the vehicle has more room beneath the hood because the engine and batteries are no longer there. Speaking of which, are EVs safe? As the motor and batteries are at the back instead of the front, electric vehicles tend to have a lower center of gravity. This makes them much less likely to flip over than cars that are higher off the ground or have more weight in the front. This also means that even in a serious car accident, there is a much lower chance of a fire starting or the engine exploding than in a regular car. They are much safer than the other option because there is no gasoline and the engine is far away from where the crash is most likely to happen. This revolution will no doubt be electric. Don't believe us? Well, just look at the internet. The EV market is about where the internet was around the late 1990s or early 2000s. Back then, there was a big buzz about this new thing with computers talking to each other. Jeff Bezos had set up Amazon, and Google was beginning to take over from AltaVista, Ask Jeeves, and Yahoo. Some of the companies involved had racked up eye-popping valuations. For all those who still needed to log on, it all seemed exciting and interesting, but irrelevant. How useful could computer communication be? After all, we've got phones. But the internet, like all successful new technologies, did not follow a linear path to world domination. It didn't evolve gradually, giving us all time to plan. Its growth was explosive and disruptive, crushing existing businesses and changing how we do almost everything. And it followed a similar pattern known to technologists as an S-curve. What are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed today's video and found it interesting, then make sure to leave us a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification to always be updated with the most exciting content as soon as it's uploaded. Thanks for watching. See you in another video.